Hey guys, I'm Kingelffe, and today I'm going to go over the mechanics behind Minecraft villages with you guys. Reason being, the other day I decided to add villages and an iron golem spawner into my world. And I spent probably a good 2-3 hours going through different wikis, YouTube, whole bunch of different things, just learning how to make my own villages. And what I discovered is YouTube has a lot of good videos on how to make iron farms. They have a lot of good tutorials on how to make villager breeders, but when you watch them, they really don't explain how they work. They just say, "All right, here's the blocks you'll need. Okay, this is how you build it, and okay, this is how it sort of works." So it'll spawn this many villagers in this many minutes. That's pretty much all the information that you get from those videos. So I'm going to go more in depth on how these villages are generated and give you guys a little bit more information. That way, rather than watching a step-by-step tutorial on how to make your iron farm or your underground village or whatever you may be building, you can use your own creativity and make your own, rather than following the step-by-step that someone else has already put out there for you. So, without further ado, let's. Alrighty, so Minecraft Village mechanics. We're going to go through this in 3 steps. Step 1 is the basics, so natural generation, structures within the village, and paths. Step 2, we're going to go through the mechanics, so how to build your own village, the minimum requirements, how iron golems spawn, and basics on how the villagers breed. And step 3 is the uses behind those mechanics. So how to make an iron golem farm, an emerald farm, and realistically just how to have fun with villages. So let's get started with step 1. Alrighty, so natural generation. Naturally in Minecraft, there are 4 different kinds of villages. So there are plains villages, savanna villages, taiga villages, and desert villages. There's also a 5th very rare kind of village called a zombie village. Only 2% of all villages that spawn will be zombie villages. And essentially what will happen in those ones is 2 things. A, all of the torches will be gone. This is a bad example. There's no torches in this house. And B, all of your villagers will be zombie villagers. Like I said, very small percentage that'll happen, but if you do find one, then check it out, because I've never actually seen one of them, and I've been playing Minecraft for probably about 8 years now. So those are the different kinds of villages you can get. Obviously, each of them will spawn in their own biomes. If you do manage to find a village that is not in one of those 4 biomes, it'll automatically default to a plains biome village. So if you find one in a jungle, or if you find one in a forest biome, it'll be a plains village, like the one you're seeing in front of you. Okay, so structures. Structures in Minecraft villages are selected based off of a weight probability scale. Each of these buildings has a different weight probability assigned to it, and the higher that weight is, the more probable that structure is to be generated in the village. Out of the 11 different structures that can be generated in villages, there are actually 2 of them that are not on that weight scale. The first one is the well here. The well technically has a 100% probability because it'll be in every village you find. The other thing is the lampposts. So, contrary to popular belief, these do not indicate how many iron golems can be spawned in the village. All this is a placeholder. So, lampposts will spawn wherever structures cannot be generated, so in smaller spaces. So, if you look here, this space is not big enough to fit the smallest hut, which is this guy right here. So that's the deal with lampposts. So that leaves 9 different structures to talk about, and I've got 7 of them laid out over here. The other 2 are the farms. So we'll just work down to the end there. So structure number 1 is the wooden hut. This guy here, it generates 1 random villager of any profession in that village, and there can be anywhere between 2 and 5 in any given village. And the weight behind this guy is 3, so not very probable to spawn. Second guy is the small house. This one here does not generate any villagers with it because it has no door, so it does not count as a valid structure for villagers. You can add a door to it to make it a valid hut, but as it naturally spawns, it does not really count as anything. And the weight behind that one is 4. This guy right here is a large house, so this one will generate 2 villagers of any profession as well. And it can have anywhere between 0 and 3 in a village, and it's got a higher weight on it. It's got 8. Moving on to the butcher shop. So this one here will generate any random villager as well as a butcher. You can have anywhere between 0 and 2 in a village, and its weight is 15. The library. It'll generate 1 librarian in your villager, and it actually has one of the highest weights in the game at 20. There can be anywhere between 0 and 2 in a village. Everyone's favorite structure, the blacksmith. As we all know, this is where we can find diamonds without having to do anything. So the blacksmith, it generates 1 blacksmith, of course, in your village. There can be anywhere between 0 and 1, and it's got a fairly high weight as well, so it's weighted at 15. And the final structure is the church. So that'll generate 1 priest in your village. There can be anywhere between 0 and 1, and once again, it's got the highest weight in the game at 20. The other 2 we haven't talked about, the small and the large farm. Small farms, there can be anywhere between 2 and 4 in a village, and they're weighted at 3. And large farms, there can be anywhere between 1 and 4, and they're weighted at 3. And the last thing in the basics, paths. So this is a pretty simple one, so I'll keep it short. Paths spawn between different structures in the village. They'll never spawn below sea level, so they'll always be at least 1 level above that. And they can expand past the village, as you can see here. They can go on for quite a ways before they actually stop and not be part of the village. In most villages, you'll have paths like you see here, the dug up grass or dirt roads. In desert villages, you'll get gravel rather than grass, though. And that's pretty much paths in a nutshell. Okay, so part 2, the mechanics behind a village. We're going to touch on all of these points real quick here, except for the golem spawning. I want to go over that separately. So we're going to do building your own village, minimum requirements for said village, as well as we're going to go over a little bit of villager breeding as well. So I guess the best place to start is, how is a Minecraft village defined? A Minecraft village is 1 acceptable house as well as 1 villager. So how Minecraft defines an acceptable house is a structure with both an inside and an outside. So how they determine that it has an inside and an outside is how I have it laid out here. So basically a center point where a door is, and then 5 blocks in front as well as 5 blocks behind, it counts. And the inside is the side with more blocks above the door, and the outside is the side with less blocks above the door. So as I have it set up right now, this is an acceptable house. If I were to do something like this here, now there is 1 block on this side and 1 block on this side, and it is no longer an acceptable house because each side has the same amount of blocks covering the 5 block search area. So even if I did something like this, it would become an acceptable house again. But once again, if I were to make it 2 and 2, no longer an acceptable house. So that's how Minecraft defines an acceptable house. You need one of those as well as a villager, and you have started your village. So, another thing that I should mention is with the acceptable house, if you did something like this here, this is not an acceptable house either, because it counts the solid blocks above your door. So right now, because I've got 2 glass blocks and a solid block, these 2 might as well not even be there, because they do not count as a solid block. Light passes through them. So I have 1 block on each side. Also not an acceptable house. And once again, if I had something like this is actually considered an acceptable house as well, because there's 1 block within that 5 block area and no blocks within this 5 block area. It doesn't actually have to be touching the top of the door to be considered an acceptable house. It just has to be within that 5 block area. So, as long as you have one of those, you got yourself a village. Okay, now that we know our minimum requirements for a village, let's work on expanding that village. How you're going to expand that village is actually with your villager. So he's going to do most of the work for you. All you have to do is give him another door to detect. So how he's going to look around is within a 16 block radius from where he is standing. And he'll keep moving within a 16 block radius of the new position he's standing. He's always going to try and stay around his village, though. So as soon as he moves to, let's say, here, he's going to wander closer to the door next. He's not going to wander further out this way. So let's give him a new door to detect. So let's say I were to build another acceptable house right here. He will eventually wander over this way and detect that there's another house here, and it is in proximity to his village. So he's going to detect this house and add it to the current village. If the door he detects is more than about 40 blocks away from your current village, so let's say you took this guy and you minecarted him way out to that door I built over there, he will detect that door, but he's going to create a new village. He's not going to add it to this one over here. So there is a range to these. So just remember that. Anything further than about 40 blocks away from your established village, not going to be detected as part of your village, and it will create a new one. So once this guy's detected this door, he's going to start wandering around this door as well as this door. So he has more area to wander around in, and you can keep adding more doors. So that is how you expand your village. When you're building these things, I always suggest that you have at least 2 villagers. And why is that? Because, well, you can't really... Oh, I didn't even... Oh, I missed. There we go. You go over there. You can't breed villagers with just 1 villager, obviously. So you're going to need at least 2. So how breeding works in Minecraft is the population of your village is going to be a minimum of 0.35% of the valid doors in your village. So as it stands right now, there's only 2 doors. So likelihood is your population is going to be 1. So when the villages are generated like this, obviously there's more villagers over here than the minimum. So you're not going to see any of these guys mating and making new villagers because the minimum requirement is met. If you want them to continue breeding, what you gotta do is increase the number of valid doors. So if I were to do something like this, I've got 2, so let's add 7 more. So this right here, just gonna quickly make these valid. This here, once the villagers detect it, is going to increase the minimum village population to 3.15. So we're gonna reduce that to 3 because you always ran down. So now if these guys were willing to breed, All you have to do is make sure these guys are happy and they'll be willing to breed. And they also have to have some food on them, so load them up with potatoes or carrots or whatever you happen to have lots of. They will meet up and they'll make a baby villager, and the minimum village requirement will be met. So if you're planning on doing a villager breeder, then just have lots of doors, and my suggestion is have a device that will carry the newly bred villager out of the village. So let's say you had a water stream bringing him out to like that door over there. He's no longer part of this village over here, and these guys will continue to breed. And if you continue doing that, then you have an infinite village spawner. And I guess I actually touched on the emerald farm a little bit there. Alrighty, and it's raining. Perfect. And it's night. I'm gonna change that. I hate rain so much in Minecraft. There we go. We got light again. So that is how you increase your village population. That is how you breed your villagers. And that is also how you expand your village. Okay, so the last point in the mechanics that I want to touch on is iron golem spawning. So, iron golems are generally spawned in larger villages. I don't think this one here would qualify for it, but then again, I haven't counted the villagers or the amount of doors in it. Essentially, they're spawned to defend the villagers against zombie sieges. That's the game mechanic that makes them spawn, and the minimum requirement to have that happen is 21 valid doors in a village, as well as 10 villagers. And the maximum amount of iron golems that you can have in any given village is 0.1% of the population rounded down. So as soon as you hit 20 villagers, you would be able to have 2 iron golems spawn, and if you had a ton of doors as well. So that just keeps going up. You can have an infinite amount of iron golems as long as you have an infinite amount of villagers and doors. So what I have set up right here is the minimum requirements for an iron golem to spawn, minus the villagers. You remember that guy that I misplaced over here? He actually detected all of these doors and then jumped over here, and he's detecting this as a village now. Like I said, they'll wander around and they'll detect the doors in the area. So this is actually one big village right here, right now, with a ton of doors as well as villagers. So if these guys were willing, they'd start breeding like crazy right now, because I don't even know what the minimum population would be right now. Probably close to 12 or 13, I'd guess. But yeah, this is how you spawn an iron golem. So essentially, how they will spawn is in a 16 by 16 by 6 area centered horizontally and vertically between all of your doors. So let's say those weren't actually part of the village, and this was your entire village right here. Your iron golem would spawn directly in the middle there. And if you had doors off that way, let's say, then he would spawn more off to this side here, because it would calculate the center between all of your doors in the village. So for example, in this one right here, he'd spawn closer to this set of doors right here. And it'll decide where your iron golem will spawn. So this actually makes it really easy to make iron golem traps. So I'm actually going to lead this into our next point a little bit, the iron golem spawner, or iron golem farm, sorry. So if I got rid of these here, and I just had this here, as well as a water trap in the middle, then I could filter all of the iron golems into a kill pit in the middle, and have them die, and as soon as that dies, they have a chance of spawning another iron golem. So the chances that these guys will spawn is 1 in 7,000 ticks. So that roughly evens out to about 1 golem every 6 minutes. So it's not a super effective farm as set up right now, because each golem will only yield about 3 to 5 iron. But you can also enhance this quite a bit with different spawning techniques. So, for example, Tango Tech, he's got an awesome Iron Golem spawner. I actually made a copy of that in my world, and it works really well. I also made my own. It's not quite as effective, but it gets me a decent amount of iron. But if you're looking for the ultimate iron golem farm, then check out Tango Tech. He's got an awesome one. I think that one gives me close to, I'd say, 12 or 13 stacks of iron every hour. So definitely worth checking out. But yeah, that's the mechanics behind iron golems. Alrighty, so we've covered the basics and the mechanics. Now let's take a look at the fun part of it. Iron golem farms, emerald farms, and just having some fun with villagers. I'm not gonna build any of those things right here in front of you because that would take a long time and this video would get extremely long. So instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump into my survival world and show you what I have built. I'll show you Tango Tech's Iron Golem spawner, as well as I'll link it in the description of the video in case you want to check out how to build it. And I'll just show you how I'm spawning my villagers and just what I've done with it as well. Alrighty guys, so I'm at my Iron Golem farm as designed by Tango Tech. The building around it is all me, but all of the redstone, all of the mechanics, the design for the actual spawning, that's all Tango Tech. Let me just get up the stairs here and I'll show you what's going on, and I'll give you a brief description. If you want the full rundown on how this works, then I would definitely suggest watching Tango Tech's video. It's about an hour and a half long, but it goes into detail on how to build this. It took me probably about 4 or 5 hours to build this, but I'm also building it on survival mode, and I screwed up once or twice. So yeah, hopefully you guys have better luck than I did, because it was not fun ripping this thing apart trying to figure out what I did wrong. But essentially what happens is there's a villager in this loop here. He goes up, and at the top there, he detects the door that's at the very top. Drops down to this holding pad for about 15 seconds, and detects this door, bringing the center of the village further down. Same thing happens when he drops down to this pad. He's held for another 15 seconds, and the center of the village is dragged down to here. Then when he drops down to the bottom here, the center of the village is transferred to the doors that are underneath this pad. Underneath this pad that I'm standing on is literally all doors. And once he drops down there, one of these pistons will extend, exposing sunlight to the doors below, giving us our outside block for all of the villages, or the village doors. And there's another device like this on this side. So with that being done between the doors over there, doors over here, doors there, there, and there, the center of the village is pulled onto this platform here, and iron golems will spawn there, fall down to their death in the lava pit that I have, and we get a ton of iron, because there are 32 of these on each side, which makes 64 different villages. So yeah, it's super effective. I would definitely suggest checking out his video. I'm going to fly over to my base now and show you my villager breeder. Yeah, I'm on a multiplayer server right now. So I've got one other friend online, so I can't sleep and make it day. Before I started this video, I actually had to clear out that base I was at, because one of my friends actually pranked me. He decided to fill that base with chickens, and the sound was just unbearable. I had to murder probably a good 100 or so chickens before I could even start recording this. But anyways, I'm at my villager spawner over here. It's just down here. So I actually turned the sound off, because over here the sound is kind of unbearable too, between the sounds of being underground, so hearing zombies in the walls and all that, and the plethora of villagers that I have down here. As you can see, the villager spawner works super well. How it works is I've got a bunch of doors down there as well as a villager. And guys, move out of the way. I gotta get through the door. I don't want to smack you because I don't want to trade with you either. Move. I need to hit the button. There we go. Cool. So in here, I've got a few more villagers. And what they're doing is they're harvesting and replanting the crops. So that's keeping them full of food. And as so, they are willing to breed and they have food to do it. So they'll breed and make baby villagers in this area. And with the help of my good friend Jimmy over here, he scares the baby villagers this way and they fall into the water stream. The water stream carries them out into that grassy area over there, which is outside of the village area. So these guys will keep breeding. And because of how I have the village set up underneath, these guys aren't being detected in the village either. But yeah, that's how this guy here works. And with the trapdoors, these guys aren't detecting Jimmy, so they're not scared of him and running this way. But I think that'll about do it for this video here. I definitely enjoyed making the video. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Leave some comments, especially if I missed anything in regards to the mechanics behind a village. I'm sure I did, but let me know. I'll clarify any questions that you have, and I'm sure it'll come in handy for you guys when you guys are using this information to build your own iron golem spawner or villager breeder or expanding the villages you're finding in the wild. I hope you guys have fun with it. I would definitely like to keep doing these videos, so let me know if you have any ideas for me, and I'll make a mechanic video for them. Maybe even start an LP. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. But like I said, that'll do it for today. I'm Kingelffe. Please like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you.